Well, I am experiencing what we're going to talk about now. Popcorn ceilings. The things, the balloon goes up, pops on the ceiling with the kids. Yeah, they were huge, very popular design trend in the 60s, 70s, even in the 80s. However, many people living in homes of that vintage nowadays don't like the way textured ceilings look, and they want to get rid of them. Well, it is possible. Help is right here in our studio as we welcome for the first time on the show Brandon Lewis. He owns Painter Ready in Chattanooga. So Brandon, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And let's get to it. First of all, I have the popcorn ceiling in my home. Didn't even know they were out of style, but whatever. But a lot of people are wanting to get rid of them. First of all, why do we want to get rid of them? Not just aesthetically, but there is a good reason as well.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. You know, popcorn was initially developed so contractors would save money in drywall finishing, and then it became a trend. If you have a water leak, if you have an issue, and you have to touch something up, everybody's had that experience where you can't quite get it right unless you're a professional. So a lot of people are going to smooth ceilings, and it's also, as you'd mentioned before, kind of aesthetically the trend.
And I agree 100%. We have a leak in our roof right now that's caused a water stain on the ceiling, on the popcorn ceiling, and I don't have a clue how I'm going to get that done. But if people want to get rid of the popcorn, they can do it. Let's show them how.
All right, guys, we're going to go through this real quick. These are some of the tools that you're going to need. Removing popcorn, David, is very, very messy. So the first thing you'll want to get is some painter's plastic, some tape, and a little razor knife so that you can kind of cordon off the area. It's real messy. You want to cover everything.
Yeah, you want to cover like literally every corner of the room.
Every corner, and you're not going to be able to cover enough. It's still going to get in some places.
Sure.
So this is what people typically have in their house. If you look here, we've got popcorn, let's say, that you'd like to remove. Get a little bit of water sprayer. That fellow's really,
that's like a fire hose right there.
It is.
Awesome.
But we're going to go out.
That'll take it off alone by itself.
It will. You'll have a very wet house. But at any rate, you want to make sure that you saturate this stuff because the way it was initially put on was with water. And then,
was it initially put on with a spray? Is it sprayed on?
It's typically a compressor and a hopper. It's little styrofoam balls covered in kind of a drywall compound.
Okay.
And so as you can see, this stuff comes off pretty easy. Now, if it's put on right, it comes off easy. If it was sprayed directly on the sheetrock, you've got a heck of a mess. And oftentimes you'll do something like rip a seam, but what you want to do is just be real ginger with it, take it off. You can see this stuff comes off perfectly because it's been primed before. You may not be that lucky in your own home. So let's move over to the next stage. Let's say that you've got this stuff scraped off and everything's gone real well, and you've messed up a drywall seam, and this is kind of representative of what might happen.
Seam being where two pieces of drywall come together.
Yes, sir, and there's just a little, sometimes it's paper, sometimes it's fiber, and what you want to do is tape this seam up, and then if we'll move over to this shot, you can see where we have put drywall compound or mud over it. You'll want to sand that stuff down. It's going to make a little bit of a dusty mess, and then make sure that you use something like a primer here to seal this.
Now, when you talk about a drywall compound or a mud, is that something that you're literally painting on, or how does that, what's the texture? How do you apply that?
When you put that stuff on, basically, you'll use compound that we have down here. Sometimes you can take it right out of the bucket, or you may get a small container, and you just put that stuff on real thin is the key. Some people try to build a mountain and then sand it down, but the key to is just to put on really small, thin coats and to cover those areas up. And you may have gouges or nicks and things of that nature.
And this is just the areas that you nick. You don't do the whole ceiling with this compound, right?
If it doesn't look damaged, don't mess with it.
Leave it alone.
And after you prime it, you may find, and this is the side is primed and this side is unprimed, you may find that you still have some more areas you want to work on. And the last step is pretty simple, and it's to come over, get your finish coat, get something probably larger than this for a ceiling, and just roll this stuff out. And so you've gone from what some people don't like these days to something that people do like, a kind of a clean, fresh, reflective look. And lastly, you can see how in the lights, popcorn, even though it's just as white and just as clean, sometimes looks yellow just because of the shadows.
Yeah, it looks kind of dirty and dingy. So the real manual labor that we're doing here is scraping the popcorn off. That's the hard part. And then it's just going to repair the gouges that you may have done and probably will do a few of them in the ceiling, and then painting. Something that in real life is easy for folks to do themselves, or would you recommend that they contact somebody like Painter Ready to do it for them?
Give it a try, but don't give it too much of a try. If you think that you're damaging your ceilings more than you're helping, stop short and call a professional. Sometimes these things have been painted for years and years and years, and you saw how the water made this stuff immediately fall off.
Right.
If you've got a latex coating of painting, it's kind of like a a tiny barrier, and so the water never really gets to soak in there. And so what you have to do is literally just scrape dry popcorn with paint on top of it off, and that's usually when people call us.
All right, well, Brandon Lewis, I appreciate it, the owner of Painter Ready. And if you have any questions about this, getting popcorn off the ceiling, that's how you've totally inspired me. I'm totally getting rid of it.
I don't get that often. Thank you.
Well, you're so inspiring, Brandon. 648-4408. Also, you can contact Brandon online. He's got the great website, painterreadychatwith2ts.com. Brandon, thank you so much, my friend. Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Good deal. And we're going to
Anytime.
come back, more 3 Plus You, when we return right after this.